This is Karen Ranzi of Super Healthy Children, and I'm at the Woodstock Fruit Festival, and I have here with me Author Tony Wright from the UK, and I'm so excited to be able to speak with you. I went to a couple of Tony's classes here at the Woodstock Fruit Festival week, and they were extremely educational. His class is focused on the symbiotic relationship between humans and plant-based foods and the development of the body and the brain. And he especially talked about the right hemisphere, and that was extremely interesting to me, especially because I work with autistic children, and I'm wondering if this increase in plant-based foods for these children will make differences in their progress to learn and to be able to communicate. So Tony.
Hi, Karen.
Hi. Can you tell us a little bit about your book, Left in the Dark, and about your work?
Okay, well, the broad overview is it's really what I'm interested in is the human condition in general, why we're clearly so insane, why we're so destructive, we're effectively harming ourselves, and it's been going on for a long time and it's getting worse. So all I've really done is reevaluate the existing data and our origins, both the Western traditions, modern scientific data. I haven't excluded the traditions that we had before Western science, so some of the ancient traditions. Then I've also been looking at the neurological literature in particular and trying to find out what on earth we've missed that's telling us exactly what's going on. So that's the basic outline.
And so, from what you've seen, how could a fruit and vegetable-based diet of fresh food impact our current society today with all of these different disease epidemics, which people are just going to medicine, thinking that medicine is going to heal them?
Yep.
Is there hope for them if they begin to incorporate more of this food?
Well, I certainly think there's hope. I mean, we are pretty much in a mess, but it's interesting. What I'm proposing, what I found in the literature, which seems to be missed, and it seems screamingly obvious to me, is that there's a really clear diagnosis with the implication of a relatively easy fix. I mean, one of the key areas, I know you're interested in this, and it's something anybody can check, is there's been research going on since at least the 70s, maybe earlier, looking at the role of our own very powerful steroids, estrogens and testosterone, and how that affects brain development, how it affects the cellular architecture, and in fact it seems to play a role in the current way our left and right brain develop. And there's a chap based in Cambridge who's kind of built on this research and produced his own research that strongly implicates testosterone and its conversion to estradiol as being the masculizing agent, particularly in males, in the human brain. And that's linked, or he's linked it very much with autistic spectrum disorders. And there's a very good correlation between the activity of testosterone or its conversion to estradiol and whereabouts people appear on the autistic spectrum disorder. So what I'm interested in is whether our current reference point is relevant, because interestingly enough, the hormones in fruit,
I was just going to ask you about that.
the hormones in fruit massively modulate the activity of testosterone and its conversion to estradiol. So the implication is our reference points are seriously flawed. We're all much further up the ASD spectrum disorder than we currently recognize by definition, because historically our own steroids were heavily modulated. They've kind of been released from this and they're now acting in their kind of archaic primitive fashion, and they're trying to build a primitive brain. And we're currently mistaking that for some kind of specialized adaptation. It's not, it's kind of some post-symbiotic disorder where we've lost all the really complex protection we have. It's not just the hormones, but that's a very key part of it. And it's affecting the development of our brain very negatively, particularly the left side. It's now much more primitive than it used to be, and paradoxically it's in charge. So it's causing a disorder, and it's also affecting our ability to even see the disorder. All crazy stuff.
And with the hormones. That was really fascinating to me.
Yeah.
That the hormones in fruit, that they impact the human development, right? They're very connected to our hormones.
It's basically, I'm trying to reframe how we think of fruit. Okay, we've grown up thinking fruit's another kind of food. Maybe it's quite healthy. That's about it. Actually, any botanist will tell you.
Most people look at fruit as just a snack food.
Yeah. Well, any botanist will tell you it's very roughly the equivalent of the mammalian uterus. It's like a human uterus. It's a developmental environment. It's designed, it's evolved to create a whole new generation, and that involves a lot of hormones to produce compressed new plants. We call them seeds instead of leaves or twigs. So it's very hormonally rich, and those hormones evolve to read DNA. Well, we have the same molecule. That's what runs our design. So we're flooding ourselves, archaically, we're flooding ourselves with design-altering chemicals. We call them hormones, and they had a massive impact on our development. This is the key part of my proposal. It's a symbiotic union of two very distantly related species, and our neocortex, the really cool bit that kind of emerged out of the top, was closer to a plant-animal hybrid than anything we currently considered. And now, losing all that complex chemistry, our genome, our DNA, hasn't the complexity to produce it. We're left with our very Arcadian, mammalian steroid hormones, and they build an exceptional survival system. It doesn't have much compassion, it doesn't have much empathy, it's not very sharp. It'll fight, it'll reproduce. That's what mammals do.